You sit there staring at your glowing screen, surrounded by a gaggle of smiling faces you call a network, and you delude yourself into thinking these people are assets. They are not assets. They are liabilities with a pulse. The most assonant belief pervading the modern financial consciousness is the idea that wealth is a team sport played in a crowded stadium of peers where everyone cheers for everyone else's success. That is a lie so pungent I can smell it from the grave. The reality, if you have the stomach for it, is that your social circle is likely a Lollapalooza of wealth destruction, a slow-acting poison that erodes your judgment, inflates your ego, and drains your wallet through the psychological mechanism of mimetic desire. You look at your friends and see companionship. I look at them and see the architects of your future bankruptcy. You believe that to get rich, you need to add more high-value people to your life, to network, to schmooze, to climb. This is backward. It is folly. To get rich, you do not need to add. You need to subtract. You need to take a machete to the vines of social obligation that are choking your rationality. As I said at the Wesco annual meeting in 2000, it's remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent. Your friends are making you stupid. They are the drag coefficient on your life's vehicle, and until you understand the mathematics of subtraction, you are doomed to mediocrity. Let us look at the titans of the old world, the men who actually built civilizations rather than just trading digital tokens of nothingness. Look at John D. Rockefeller. Look at Andrew Carnegie. Look at the early days of Berkshire Hathaway. Do you think Rockefeller spent his evenings in a frantic group chat discussing the latest moonshot with a dozen excitables who didn't know a balance sheet from a breakfast menu? No. These men operated with a ruthless, solitary discipline. They understood the power of isolation. When Warren and I started, we didn't have an entourage. We didn't have a mastermind group of people who were broke but enthusiastic. We had books. We had silence. We had the discipline to sit in a room and read until our eyes bled, saying no to almost everything. Contrast that with the modern fool, the easy money addict who determines his asset allocation based on what his neighbor just bought. This is the herd mentality that leads to the slaughterhouse. In the 19th century, men built fortunes by ignoring the crowd. Today, you try to build fortunes by retweeting the crowd. It is pathetic. The institutional imperative, as Warren calls it, the mindless urge to imitate what others are doing, is not just a corporate disease. It is a social disease. If your best friend buys a boat he cannot afford, the clock starts ticking on when you will buy a slightly smaller boat you also cannot afford just to maintain your standing in the tribe. You are not investing. You are engaging in a competitive consumption spiral that ends in ruin. I am going to teach you a mental model that is the cornerstone of all rational thought, a tool derived from the great mathematician Carl Jacobi inversion. Invert, always invert. Jacobi knew that many hard problems are best solved when they are addressed backward. If you want to help India, the question you should ask is not, how can I help India? But what is doing the worst damage in India? And then you simply stop doing that. Apply this to your social circle and your wealth. Do not ask, how can I find friends who will make me rich? That is a fool's errand. You are not smart enough to identify them. And if they are truly rich, they are likely too smart to hang out with you. Instead, ask the inverted question. What kind of friends will guarantee my poverty? Identify those traits: envy, impatience, financial illiteracy, a taste for leverage, and then ruthlessly excise anyone who exhibits them. It is not about finding the genius. It is about avoiding the moron. If you remove the anchors, the ship rises. It is simple physics, yet you complicate it with emotion. You keep the spendthrift friend because we go way back. You keep the gambler because it's fun at parties. You are prioritizing nostalgia and entertainment over survival. That is not just stupid. It is a dereliction of duty to your future self. I have seen brilliant men with IQs that would break a testing machine reduced to rubble because they could not sever ties with a charismatic idiot. I speak from experience, and I will give you a piece of my own scars to prove I am not immune to this folly, though I learned my lesson long before you were born. In 1961, I made a mistake that still irritates me when I drink my morning coffee. I had a friend, a perfectly nice man, who was obsessed with a land development deal in Pasadena. He was charismatic. He was certain And he was my friend. I violated my own rules. I didn't do the deep work. I didn't invert the problem. I relied on social proof. The idea that because he was doing it and he was a smart fellow, it must be sound. I put $200,000 into that subdivision. In today's money, that is a fortune, millions of dollars. It was a disaster. The zoning was a nightmare. The demand wasn't there. And the capital evaporated like water on a hot sidewalk. I lost it all. But the loss of money was not the tragedy. The tragedy was the loss of discipline. I had allowed affection to override arithmetic. I had allowed a friend to destroy my wealth because I lacked the temperament to say, no, I paid a high tuition for that lesson, but I never paid it again. You are paying that tuition every single day in smaller increments by buying the wrong car, taking the wrong vacation, and investing in the wrong fads, all because you are terrified of being out of step with your peers. You must understand that the human mind is not designed for rationality. It is designed for social cohesion. We are tribal apes who survived on the savannah by sticking together. But in the capital markets, the tribe is your enemy. The tribe wants you to be average. The tribe wants you to be safe. The tribe wants you to share in their delusions so they don't feel so alone in their stupidity. When you try to excel, when you try to compound capital at high rates, you are by definition leaving the tribe behind. This triggers envy. And as I said at the 2003 Berkshire annual meeting, envy is a really stupid sin because it's the only one you could never possibly have any fun at. Your friends will not tell you they are envious. They will tell you they are concerned about your risk taking. They will tell you that you are working too hard. They will try to pull you back down into the crab bucket. You must have the temperament to ignore them. Temperament is more important than IQ. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money. And you cannot control your emotions if you are constantly surrounded by people who are vomiting their own emotional incontinence all over you. Let us discuss the 3 decisions that determine 95% of your life's outcome, a concept I have alluded to in various speeches but will crystallize here. You think your life is a series of millions of choices, but it really comes down to 3 massive bets. The 3 decisions are who you marry, where you live, and who you associate with. If you get the first one wrong, you are in a living hell. If you get the second one wrong, you are trapped in an economic backwater. But if you get the third one wrong, who you associate with, you will eventually get the first 2 wrong as well. Your associations dictate your standards. If you associate with people who treat debt as income, you will eventually treat debt as income. If you associate with people who view the stock market as a casino, you will eventually start gambling. It is the Lollapalooza effect, multiple biases acting in concert to drive you toward a specific outcome. In this case, the outcome is poverty. You need to audit your circle with the cold detachment of a forensic accountant. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they compound and are they rational? Or are they static, emotional, and prone to folly? If it is the latter, you are standing in a burning building complaining about the heat while refusing to walk out the door. I am not your advisor. But if I were, I would tell you to consider a radical purge of your contact list as a fiduciary responsibility to your family. You need to build a fortress of solitude around your decision-making process. The great investors, the ones who sustain wealth over decades, are those who can stand apart from the crowd and watch the mania unfold without participating. They are the ones who can look at a friend making 50% returns in a Ponzi scheme and feel absolutely nothing but pity. This requires a level of arrogance. Yes, you have to believe that your judgment is better than the collective judgment of your peers. And to be right, you actually have to put in the work. You have to read. You have to study. You have to understand the fundamental nature of reality. Most people are not willing to do this. They want the shortcut. They want the hot tip from the brother-in-law. They want to be part of the conversation. I am telling you that the conversation is noise. The signal is found in the annual reports, in the history books, and in the quiet contemplation of your own folly. Standard Oil was not built on friendship. It was built on efficiency and ruthlessness. Carnegie Steel was not a social club. It was a machine. Even at Berkshire, Warren and I are not pals in the way you understand it. We are intellectual sparring partners. We check each other's delusions. If I say something stupid, Warren doesn't support me He tears the idea apart. That is true friendship. True friendship is the prevention of folly. Modern friendship is the enabling of folly. You have surrounded yourself with enablers who applaud your bad decisions because they want you to applaud theirs, is a circle jerk of incompetence. You must invert this dynamic. Seek out the people who are not afraid to tell you that you are being an idiot. Seek out the people who have higher standards than you do. And if you cannot find them, be alone. Solitude is a bonanza compared to the deficit of bad company. The mechanism of this destruction is subtle. It is not that your friends reach into your pocket and take your wallet. It is that they alter your perception of value. When you are surrounded by people who overvalue status goods, your internal pricing mechanism gets skewed. You start thinking that a luxury car is a necessity. You start thinking that a private school education for your toddler is an investment. These are hallucinations induced by social pressure. As I said at the University of Southern California Law School in 1994, I think that one should recognize reality even when one doesn't like it, indeed, especially when one doesn't like it. The reality is that your friends are likely mediocre capital allocators. By mimicking them, you are ensuring your own mediocrity. You are importing their bad habits, their cognitive biases, and their financial illiteracy directly into your brain. It is like sharing a needle with a junkie. You might feel good for a moment, but you are catching a disease that will kill you. Stop looking for the secret to wealth in the chatter of the crowd. The secret is in the avoidance of stupidity. And the greatest source of stupidity in your life is the uncurated collection of people you allow to influence your mind. Cut them loose. Be ruthless. Your wealth depends on it. The path to the poorhouse is paved with the good intentions of your idiot friends. Step off that path. Now, you treat time as if you have an infinite supply, dipping into the well of hours to quench the thirst of your bored acquaintances, oblivious to the fact that the well is drying up with every tick of the clock. This is an actuarial reality, not a philosophical one. You are a decaying asset. Every morning you wake up, you are one day closer to obsolescence and death. If you are 30 years old, you do not have plenty of time. You have perhaps 20,000 days left, and most of those will be spent sleeping, eating, or drooling in a nursing home. The investable hours, the high cognitive function hours where you can actually compound capital and wisdom, are a scarce resource, arguably the scarcest you possess. Yet, you squander them on hanging out. You trade these diamond-encrusted hours for the cheap plastic jewelry of social validation. When you spend 4 hours at a dinner party listening to a man who is leveraged to the hilt explain his theory on cryptocurrency, you have not just wasted 4 hours. You have destroyed the compound value of what those 4 hours could have produced over the next 40 years. It is the mathematics of destruction. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein reportedly said, but it requires a long runway to take off. When you waste your prime years on social friction, you are shortening the runway. You are ensuring that the exponential curve never happens. You are flatlining your own existence to appease people who will not be at your funeral. Let us discuss the concept of opportunity cost, a mental model that is so simple yet so widely ignored that it constitutes a form of mass insanity. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative foregone. In economics, it is a basic lesson. In life, it is the filter through which every single decision must pass. If you are doing A, you cannot be doing B. If you are listening to your friend complain about his boss, you are not reading the annual report of a company that could change your life. As I have said at the daily journal meetings, life is a whole series of opportunity costs. You got to marry the best person who is convenient to find who will have you. Investment is the same sort of process. You have a limited amount of capital, both financial and mental. Every ounce of energy you pour into a low-yield relationship is energy stolen from a high-yield opportunity. It is a zero-sum game within the constraints of a 24-hour day. The modern fool thinks he can have it all. He thinks he can have the vibrant social life, the country club membership, the weekly golf game, and still achieve outsized financial returns. This is twaddle. It is a lie sold to you by advertisers who want you to buy beer and SUVs. The greats, the ones who really moved the needle, understood that to say yes to the great opportunity, you must say no to 1,000 mediocre ones. Your friends are the mediocre opportunities. They are the drag on your return on invested time. Now, Consider the algebra of the fat pitch. This is a concept I borrowed from Ted Williams, the greatest hitter who ever lived. Ted wrote a book called The Science of Hitting, and in it, he carved the strike zone into 77 cells, each the size of a baseball. He knew that if he swung at a ball in his sweet spot, he would bat 400. If he swung at a ball on the lower outside corner, he would bat 230. In baseball, you strike out if you don't swing at strikes. But in the game of investing and in the game of life, there are no called strikes. You can stand at the plate, bat on your shoulder for years. The market can throw you General Motors at 4D, and you can watch it go by. Your friends can throw you a guaranteed real estate deal, and you can watch it go by. You can stand there until the pitcher throws you a fat, slow ball right down the middle, a wonderful business at a distressed price, and only then do you swing. And when you swing with everything you have. This requires a temperament that is totally alien to the average social animal. Your friends are constantly swinging. They are swinging at every IPO, every trend, every piece of gossip. And because they are swinging, they want you to swing too. They feel insecure if you are just standing there. They call you passive. They call you boring. They pressure you to get in the game. If you succumb to this pressure, you are finished. You will fritter away your capital on marginal ideas. And when the great bonanza finally arrives, the moment when it rains gold, you will be standing outside with a teaspoon instead of a wash tub because you wasted your resources on the trivial. I am not your advisor. But if I were, I would tell you to consider cultivating the ability to do absolutely nothing for years at a time. This is harder than it sounds. Blaise Pascal said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Your friends are the ones knocking on the door of that room, begging you to come out and make a mistake. They are the agents of chaos. You must resist them. You must hoard your capital and your attention like a dragon hoards gold, waiting for that one anomaly, that one mispriced gamble where the odds are so heavily in your favor that it would be negligent not to bet the house. But you cannot bet the house if you have already bet the garage, the kitchen, and the master bedroom on the stupid ideas your college roommate pitched you over drinks. I will tell you about a mistake I made, a sin of omission that cost me more money than you will likely earn in 10 lifetimes. It was 1977. The opportunity was Belridge Oil. This was a company in California that owned vast reserves of heavy oil. It was unglamorous. It was boring, but the math was screamingly obvious. The stock was trading at around 115 per share, but the underlying reserves were worth infinitely more. It was a classic value play, a dollar selling for 50 cents. I saw it. I understood it. I bought 300 shares. 300 shares? It was a pittance. I had the capital to buy thousands. I had the liquidity, but I was trying to be too clever, or perhaps I was distracted by other things, or maybe I was just being a pinch penny. 2 years later, in 1979, Shell Oil bought Belridge for nearly $3.700 a share. My 35,000 investment turned into over 1 million in roughly 24 months of Bonza Lollapalooza. But do not congratulate me. That is not a success story. It is a failure of the highest order. If I had simply bought 500 shares, which I could have easily done, I would have made $5 million. In today's money, the difference is staggering. I left tens of millions of dollars on the table because I did not swing hard enough at the fat pitch. I was right on the analysis, but I was wrong on the execution. Why? Because I lacked the killer instinct in that moment. I was dinking around. Now imagine if I had been distracted by a gaggle of friends telling me that oil was dead, or that I should be buying tech stocks, or that I should join them for a month-long excursion to Europe. I might have missed the trade entirely. The lesson of Belridge is that when the universe offers you a mispriced gamble, you must have the clarity of mind and the availability of capital to seize it with violence. You cannot do that if your mind is cluttered with the trivialities of your social circle. You cannot do that if your capital is tied up in the keeping up with the Joneses rat race. The pain of that mistake is the pain of opportunity cost. It is the ghost of the wealth that never was. You are haunting your own future every time you let a friend talk you into a bad decision or a waste of time. You are creating ghosts. You think you are being a good guy. By going along to get along, you are not being a good guy. You are being a bad steward of your potential. There is a moral obligation to be rational. To be rational requires you to acknowledge that time is running out. The sand is in the bottom half of the hourglass. You do not have time for fools. You do not have time for the noise. You only have time for the signal, and the signal is faint. It requires silence to hear. If your life is a cacophony of social obligations, you are deaf to the opportunities that could liberate you. The modern world worships activity. It conflates motion with progress. Your friends are likely very busy. They are busy going to brunch, busy planning trips, busy talking about shows they watched. They are spinning their wheels in the mud, engine roaring, going nowhere. They look at you sitting quietly, reading, thinking, saving, and they think you are stagnant. They pity you. Let them pity you. You are the crocodile in the river. You are motionless, conserving energy, waiting for the wildebeest to step into the water. When it does, when the market crashes, when the panic sets in, when the fat pitch crosses the plate, you will strike with a speed and power that will terrify them. But you can only be the crocodile if you stop trying to be the monkey chattering in the trees with the other monkeys. You have to choose your species. You must become comfortable with being out of step. As I have said, if you want to be a good investor, you have to have a long-term perspective. You have to be willing to be very patient and wait for the right pitch. And when you get the right pitch, you have to be ready to swing hard. You can't just take a little tiny swing. Your friends are forcing you to take tiny swings at bad pitches every day. They are bleeding you dry, one bad decision at a time. The cumulative effect of this is not just a smaller bank account, it is a smaller life. It is a life defined by regret, by the what-ifs, by the Belridge Oles you didn't buy because you were too busy being popular. Do not be popular, be rich, be rational, be free. The cost of admission to the 1% is the willingness to be misunderstood by the 99%. Pay the price. It is a bargain. You are drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. And the primary reason is that you cannot distinguish between real knowledge and chaffer knowledge. This is a story I have told many times from Max Planck. After Planck won the Nobel Prize, he went on a tour giving the same speech to various audiences. His chauffeur, having heard the lecture 20 times, said, "Professor Planck, I can give that lecture just as well as you can." So for the next stop, they swapped places. The chauffeur stood on stage and delivered the speech perfectly. Then a physicist in the back stood up and asked a very difficult question. The chauffeur smiled and said, "I am surprised to hear such a simple question in an advanced city like Munich. I will let my chauffeur answer it. The world is full of chauffeurs, people who have memorized the vocabulary of finance, who can parrot the jargon of crypto staking or macro trends, but who possess absolutely zero deep understanding of the underlying mechanics. These are the TV pundits, the YouTube influencers, the friends who read one headline and think they are George Soros. They have the appearance of competence, but it is a facade. They are dangerous because they sound plausible to the uninitiated. You must learn to ignore them with extreme prejudice. If a person cannot explain why they are wrong, if they cannot argue the opposing case better than the opposition, they have no business holding an opinion, and you have no business listening to it. The most insidious form of this chauffeur knowledge comes from your immediate social circle. It is the brother-in-law who tells you that real estate never goes down. It is the colleague who whispers that this tech stock is the next Amazon. They are regurgitating sound bites they heard from another chauffeur. They are echoing the noise of the crowd. When you act on this information, you are stepping outside your circle of competence. This is the ultimate sin in investing. You have a small circle of things you actually understand. Maybe it's your own industry. Maybe it's the local economy of your town. Inside that circle, you have an edge. Outside that circle, you are a pigeon at a poker table. Your friends are constantly trying to drag you out of your circle. They want you to speculate on things you know nothing about because it makes for better conversation. What do you think about AI? What do you think about the Fed? Who cares what you think? You don't know anything, and neither do they. Stick to what you know. If you are a dentist, invest in dental practices or the suppliers you use every day. Do not try to outsmart the market in biotechnology just because your friend sent you a link. As I said at the 2019 Daily Journal meeting, you have to know what you know and what you don't know. What could be more useful than that? Now, let us distill this entire philosophy into a framework you can actually use. provided you have the discipline to follow it, which I doubt most of you do. It comes down to the three decisions. These are not suggestions. They are iron laws of wealth accumulation. First, you must live below your means. This is the fuel. If you spend everything you make to impress your friends, you have no capital to invest, and you are a slave to your paycheck. Second, you must never interrupt compounding. This is the engine. Once you have capital working for you, you do not touch it. You do not sell it to buy a boat. You do not sell it because the market dipped 10%. You let it sit and rot and grow for decades. As I famously said, the first rule of compounding: never interrupt it unnecessarily. And third, you must remove toxic people. This is the aerodynamics. You cannot fly if you are carrying dead weight. You must ruthlessly cut out the spendthrifts, the pessimists, the gamblers, and the envious. These three decisions must be made in concert. If you do two but ignore the third, you will fail. If you live below your means and remove toxic people but interrupt compounding, you will be a poor hermit. If you invest well but keep toxic friends, they will eventually convince you to interrupt compounding. It is a tripod. Kick out one leg and the whole thing collapses. Trust is the currency of civilization, but in the financial markets, trust must be earned, verified, and stress tested. You trust your friends with your secrets, perhaps with your life, but you should not trust them with your capital allocation. This is a crucial distinction. I love my friends, but I would not let some of them run a lemonade stand, let alone my portfolio. You must separate the personal from the financial. This is hard because money is emotional. We want to help our friends. We want to believe in their dreams. But the market does not care about your feelings. The market is a weighing machine, and it weighs cash flows, assets, and competitive advantages. It does not weigh good vibes or friendship. If you invest in a friend's business because you like him, you are engaging in charity, not investing. That is fine if you call it charity, but do not call it investing and do not expect a return. As I have said, I think that every time you see the word EBITDA, you should substitute the words bullshit earnings. Similarly, every time a friend pitches you an opportunity, you should substitute the word gift. If you are willing to give them the money as a gift, proceed. If not, keep your checkbook closed. You must build a mental moat around your mind. Just as a castle has a moat to keep out invaders, your mind needs a defense system against stupidity. The world is trying to infect you with bad ideas, the news, the social media algorithms, the dinner party chatter. It is all designed to trigger your biases, fear, greed, envy, social proof. You need to be a fortress. You need to verify everything. Trust, but verify is too weak. Don't trust and verify everything is better. Read the primary sources. If a friend tells you a company is great, read the 10K. If the TV man tells you the economy is crashing, look at the data. Do the work. Most people are lazy. They want the fruit without planting the tree. By doing the work, by ignoring the chaff years, by staying in your circle of competence, you automatically separate yourself from the 99% of people who are sleepwalking through their financial lives.